Welcome, everybody. It's top of the hour. It's 11 o'clock Eastern in the US. It's 5 o'clock in Switzerland, I know. And whoever is joining from around the world, thank you so much for being here. We have Global Lens, Women Executive Leadership. We're celebrating International Women's Day. We have only women panelists. We're the Women Power. And this panel is very dear to my heart because we have Monica coming. We need to, okay, it's gonna work. We had a wonderful, I clicked the wrong person. Things can happen when you click too fast. So, and we need to make sure she can talk. Okay. We didn't want to throw you off, but
I was like, I didn't even say anything yet, and I'm already kicked off. So this is a great start here.
We like to include you for sure, because this is the Power Women event about education. I'm an educator as well, so this is very dear to my heart. And we also hear about mentoring, and we also want to say thank you for OWIT for their partnership, because they said they would sponsor us. So very happy. I'm the international rep for the New York City chapter, and I receive great support from them, and it's a wonderful organization. So just want to mention that. But we have Dr. Susanne Capendijk with us, as known. Dr. Z is so much easier. We have Amanda Hsiung-Blodgett, and this is a difficult name too. This is Miss Panda. And Caroline Desjardins is another difficult name in French, but it's beautiful. So thank you so much for being with us on March 8th, where we had a panel before talking about the European aspects. And now we move into the educational aspect. And can I invite everybody just to introduce themselves? We can start with Dr. Z. Who are you? What do you do? What can we learn from you?
Good morning. Thank you for inviting us. And us, I mean EDsnaps. I am Dr. Susanne Capendijk, also known as Dr. C, which is much easier to pronounce. I am the CEO and founder of EDsnaps, a nonprofit organization that focuses on inspiring STEAM learners to become STEAM leaders. And that means like female identifying students between 12 and 18 years of age that are learning how to understand STEAM. And the goal is, our vision is to increase diversity in the STEAM workforce. If we are in person operating, we operate mainly in the Bronx in New York, but due to COVID, we skipped the national step and we skipped all the other boroughs and we went immediately international. So we're running now leadership programs also outside the US. I'm a neuroscientist by training, and I also have a consulting firm where I'm also the CEO of, and that works on health sciences, so medical devices and so on. That's about it.
Wonderful. And I said this morning, we need more of you. We need more of everybody. I think that's what I will say all the time. Amanda, Miss Panda, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. And this is such a wonderful opportunity. I really am grateful to meet all of the powerful leadership, ladies here. I'm Amanda Hsiung-Blodgett, and I'm known as for my little kids and parents. They know me as Miss Panda. I'm the founder of Miss Panda Chinese, and that's for children. So I want to connect them with the Chinese language, cultures, not just the Chinese culture, but the world culture, and also focusing on raising global citizens. And then for adults, I also work with adults. And then what I do with adults is we want to break the myth of Mandarin Chinese is one of the most difficult languages in the world. So connecting people with the language and also connecting with from a culture which seems very far away from them actually is going to pull us closer together. So that's what I do. And then I share the passion, with children, with parents, and also in the business world. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. And she taught me Mandarin Chinese. I can say, why I chocolate. This means I love chocolate. So this is the most important phrase you need to know when you're traveling, I think. Then you never get hungry, or you never go hungry. Yeah, and Caroline, my dear friend from the running world, right? Introduce yourself, please.
Thank you for having me also, and happy International Women's Day. There's been so many enlightening women's stories, persevering through all kinds of changes, right, in the world. That's what I'm going through right now with change. And I moved to New York City from Canada. I'm originally from the French-speaking part of Canada. I was born in Montreal, and got to travel a lot. My father was in the Canadian Air Force, so we moved to the United States when I was a little kid, only spoke French, crying every day coming home. I don't want to be French, I want to be English, and back and forth and back and forth. So finally, I studied fashion design at FIT in New York City, and I got a wonderful job where I got to travel all over the world and experience many cultures, which I found the fascinating part of my job. The fashion design was fun too, but just getting to immerse myself get to visit all these wonderful places in the world on somebody else's dime, right? They're paying for me to travel, and I loved it because I learned so much working with different cultures. And so I worked for 25 years as a fashion designer, product developer, sourcing, supply chain, all of that stuff. I worked for a mid-sized company, and the world changed. The company went bankrupt, $100 million bankruptcy. And I went, wow, why does a good company file for bankruptcy? So I happened to be around the corner from a business fashion school where we used to hire students. And I said, where is this school? LIM. And it turned out it was around the corner. And I walked in the door one day after I'd lost my job, and I said, I think I want to come back to school here. And they said, great, embrace me with open arms. And then I did my bachelor's degree. I had associate's degrees in fine arts and fashion design, but I didn't have a bachelor's degree. So I needed that to do the MBA. I learned all that as I was going along. I stayed on. I did the MBA there. And now, as the world is changing again, they asked me to stay on as a professor. I started to teach. And then COVID happened. So we went virtual. And then now there not as many students enrolling in the fashion industry. Is a big upheaval at the moment. So they're reprogramming for the fall and looking where the opportunities are, which is what we're all trying to do, right? Where do I belong in this big picture? And believe it or not, they implemented the first program in the United States for cannabis management. Now, cannabis has become a multi-billion-dollar industry. Some people may be against it, some people for it. I happen to know a lot of people that use it for pain management. And now with the whole opioid epidemic that's going on here, I've been working with local doctors in the community where it's become a big problem. So I'm looking at it on the health aspect, anti-inflammatories. My dog is on cannabis oil, which he doesn't know what I'm giving him. And it's not the one that makes you high or anything. It has the THC removed, and he doesn't know what I'm giving him, from a jelly bean to cannabis oil.
Okay, wonderful.
And he went from limping to, he's a 10-year-old dog, big boy, and he now can come up the stairs and sees me and wags his tail and plays like a much younger dog, which he was not doing.
Wonderful.
So I looked at that and I said, wow, this is interesting. So that cannabis industry, and also they're doing the pet industry in this fashion business school, which is another multi-billion-dollar industry.
Wow.
And during COVID, a lot of people adopted animals, and I have therapy. All my 3 dogs have been qualified to be therapy dogs to work at the local hospital, helping patients sort of overcome horrible illnesses that, again, the dog comes in to say hello, and the person has gone from a horrible day to completely forgetting they're in the hospital. So I've been watching things like that happen, and I just go, okay, the wheels are turning.
That's fantastic. We need people who are like forward thinking and trying out new things, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned the pandemic. So Amanda, Miss Panda, I'm wondering, how was the pandemic for you? Because I know we know each other from the podcasting world. How is that going for you?
Well, I think the learning is really loving what everybody's saying. I think learning is always connecting. It's never just one dimensional fashion industry. You need to have another language to connect with each other for people, or people they learn, they have different languages and they can learn more from the neuroscience point of view, or to learn fashion design or their passion or something they want to make a change or make a difference. So during the pandemic, for me, it's really interesting. Suddenly I received a job to help a school, which basically they just started on virtually. They want to, have a Mandarin Chinese program. And then thinking about having like a first, second graders, sitting in front of the computer, say, I am going to learn Mandarin. Usually it's interactive. Usually I'm on site with the children. So how do you bring that to kids, especially younger kids? The fun thing is the magic of the screens, and I will hide things behind me. I will say, well, pay attention. We're going to do some project, but you're going to find different things, around me. So I think it actually inspired me to use different creativity to connect it with the kids, even through a screen. Or they will invite me, say, can you please have lunch with me? I'll say, I would love to. And then you know how we have the lunch on screen. Have a lunch party. So this is, I think we're all learning about this whole virtual world during the pandemic. We are more creative, not just for educators or business owners. I think especially for leaders. I think we're trying to adopt a way to make it better and to connect better, just like what we're doing here. So that's what I learned. I think the pandemic actually has helped me to be more creative, to connect kids, even though I think it will be really challenging to connect with the younger kids if we're doing this virtual, but we had a great time. Yeah.
Wonderful. And you just wrote a book. Tell us about your book.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. And then during the pandemic, I also wrote a book. It's called First Mandarin Sound, an Awesome Chinese Word Book. It's a simple book. The idea of it is there's so many people, sometimes they look at the Chinese name and having a really hard time to pronounce the word. And then even it's not because we can't, it's just because there's no exposure, even for news anchors, for people, celebrities, because nobody has really talked about it. And Chinese people look at the pinyin as a symbol that they know and they pronounce it. But for people who are not the native speakers, I think just need a little bit of guidance. And that's the reason why I wrote a children's book. And I think, well, this is not threatening. It is fun. And it is something you think it's possible. I think when we can see the possibility, we can reach that. And that's why I wrote the book. Yeah, thank you for mentioning it.
Yeah. And maybe you put it in the chat so we can find your book. And I mean, like, I speak 5 languages more or less. And when I spoke to Miss Panda, I said to her, oh, the Mandarin is so difficult. And she says, I have to change my mindset. It's not difficult, it's different. So if I have to teach myself to learn, become better in math, what do I need to do? I need to train. If Caroline and I were marathon runners, if we want to become better and faster, we need to train. So it's the muscle in the brain that we need to train more and to become successful and stronger, I would say also. Yeah, good. Dr. C, you have a lot to share.
I love that one. I want to spin off on that one because, I mean, as you know, my favorite organ in the whole world is the brain, and brain is so powerful. And it's exactly, and I'm happy that you said that, Susanne, like the way of thinking, and Miss Panda, the same thing there. Your way of thinking has to change. You have to do a mind shift almost. And we just had an exercise in our CLO leadership program this past, not this Monday, but the Monday before. And we started off with, like, everybody is talking about the glass is half full or the glass is half empty. And I said, I want to change that a little bit. You have to say, why does this happen to me, or why does it happen for me? So you change yourself from a 2 to a 4. And that is much better, because if you approach that one, it's like, okay, why does this happen this morning to me? No, why is it happening for me? And by having that mind shift there, you're going to, like, have a different angle also, but it also helps you in like, you know, I studied cognitive development in the brain for many, many years. And we know that there is neuroplasticity in the brain. There is like recovering in the brain. So you can, and we did that like in our virtual program, like last summer and the summer before, rewiring our brain. Mm-hmm. And that is an important part because, of course, our young students, their rewiring goes a little bit faster than with me because I'm already older. And that is, well, that's a fact. And it's there, but you can rewire your brain. So in a way, you retrain your brain. Mm-hmm. So that is a good aspect of that one. But it's also very important because you can see new angles, but also, and then referring to Miss Panda, is like we were also forced, of course, to go from one day to in-person programs to like overnight to Zoom programs. How am I going to do that? And we got like supply kits for our students. We send them in. And what we do in our workshops, the same as like, well, like they have to find things, but we have like a little bit older students. And that is in a way a good thing, but it's also a little bit more of a challenge sometimes. But we have them work with their hands. And I would like that. And I like emphasize that I don't want you to work on a computer device. Why not? Because I need your hands, I need your fingers, I need you to start drawing on that piece of paper. That helps you rewiring your brain. And what we do now is like they get sometimes 20 minutes for an assignment, and the only thing I see is the top of their heads, and the only sound I hear is like scrapping of pencils on a piece of paper, and they design and they are innovative. I said, we can find any tool in the world to like, you know, digitize your invention, but it's all coming from here, that problem solving, that like, you know, when they punch us, we don't punch back, we just stand up again and we go again. So we learn how to like survive. And that is in a way what you do. It's like, it doesn't matter where you're working on, it doesn't matter what you do, but you have to problem solve. And you can problem solve, and actually I have it with a piece of paper and some notes, because I made notes for this morning, because then I don't forget things. And it's like, and in that way I prepare myself. And that's what I would like to see our students do too. It doesn't matter from which category you're coming, from which neighborhood you're coming. This you always have. You don't have a computer? Well, we'll find a computer for you. That's what I can do, but I can't give you a new brain in a way. Well, rewiring it. But
that's not possible yet.
That's not it.
What I unfortunately read in the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, that with the pandemic, there are still 3.9 billion human beings in the world who does not have access to internet. So I'm very aware that whoever is attending here, and thank you so much for being here, we're the privileged people who have access to the internet. We have a computer, we're at home somewhere, or whatever home means. So I think we also have to be aware of that. And the previous panel, which spoke about the SDGs and the equal pay, the fair pay for everybody. So we need to change that gap. And especially in the STEM, we need to see that we can. Dr. C, do you have any statistics on how it has changed?
Well, I was reading up something this morning. CNN had like an article, and I quote, CNN this morning identified ways you can help a variety of important causes for women. And then they list the causes for women. They say gender equality, education, child rights, and violence against women. But I was a little bit offended, or like I didn't feel that well about the word causes, because it's the same as when you treat a disease. You can treat the symptoms, but if you don't treat the roots, it's not going to change. And we're here, EDsnaps is in it for a change, because we are game changers. At least that's what I'm aiming for. I want to go back to those roots. And I was looking at the sustainability goals from the UN as well, because we're working in Ghana with those goals specifically. I think it all comes down to like, get an education. Because I think that is the root, that is the problem. And not the fancy education, not the fancy computer education, just the basics, the reading and the math. If you can do the math, nobody can beat you anywhere in the world. It doesn't matter how poor you are, how rich you are. If you have 25 million in your back pocket and you can't count 1 + 1 = 2, you still have a problem. And you can pay the accountants to do that for you, but then they are going to rip you off because you don't understand the math. And I think by all these sustainable goals, they can all be like reached, but education is not a cause. Education is the root. And if we want to change the payment for women, we can't just put like people on the board and then hopefully it will change. No, we have to start with the next generation and the generation after that and train them with the basics, because if they have the basics, they can go anywhere and it doesn't matter anymore. And then I think we can talk a bit about that. But I was reading in the education at this moment, 129 million girls globally are not able to attend school at this moment. So that is a lot. And I think we still have a lot to do. And I think like one of the approaches I've been thinking of is like, we have so many retirees, we have so many people that like to volunteer. Well, volunteer in your community. And get a couple of students in there and learn them the basics of like, math, or read a book with them. And then they get exposed to that. And then it plants a seed. And because some parents, they say the teachers have to do this. No, it's a whole, we know it takes a village to move forward. It's not, don't blame it on the teachers, because the teachers are like shorthanded. They are going through a lot of stress. They have their own families. They have their own problems. And then I'm just talking about the educational system, not what is out there. But I think like if we can help the teachers by volunteering, give 2 hours a week. What is 2 hours if you become like 100 years old? What is 2 hours a week? And if everybody would do that, and they would like gather around those students, you can lift up the whole community. And I think, and then you have something to talk about, because then you're grabbing it in the roots, and then you can pet any symptom there, because they can like come up with ideas. When I hear my students coming up with ideas, at a certain time point, I got a little bit like depressed during COVID. And I said, why are we doing this? It's no use. And then like the next morning, I'm up there. There are like 15 students sitting there, waiting there, and the ideas were flowing and everybody was energized. And I think that is the hope that I have. Our next generation, we have to invest in them. And it's fine. The women that are now like 45, 50, they can fight for their own equality, but they also have to give back, and not only talking, but also walking. And that's an important part. So that's,
I think so.
Like, what?
I'm with you. No. We need more of you. And Caroline, you and I were educators, right? So I've been teaching, and teaching, I think, is very hard. I've been teaching adult students. I've coached. It's a little easier when you coach people in the running, because they're listening to you and you can say you can get faster, you can motivate them. So it's a different learning. But teaching adults, I thought that was the hardest job in a way that I did, because people were like, I don't care. I don't know. I didn't do the homework. I was basically just clicking the PowerPoint, not all of them, but some of them. And that was so frustrating for me. And when I did trainings, people fell asleep. So this was not so easy. Caroline, let us know how it is for you. You also have college students, right?
Yeah, I didn't teach the little ones, although I've been exposed recently to my little nephews who go to a bilingual school on the Upper West Side. And I went to pick them up the other day with my niece, and everyone was speaking French. And then I realized, I was like, this is not a coincidence. I was like, oh, they're learning French here. And then I found out, I didn't even realize they were going to a complete French immersion school. And I thought that was fantastic. And the little one was learning Mandarin. So I love that, and the kids it was a public school, and my niece and nephew moved in that neighborhood for their kids to go to that school. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And then for the older students, like for college, I was thrown into that too. They asked me after I finished my MBA, they said, oh, would you like to teach? I was like, I guess, I don't know, I don't know how to do that, but I literally was kind of thrown in and showed up, and I looked at the students and I said, hey, I just graduated from this school too. And they looked at me like, what? And I said, yeah, I went back to school as an older person. So I was like, I can relate to the homework. I can relate to whatever. I'm going to try to make this fun, and we're going to learn something together, So I took it like in a different spin. I was not a very formal teacher, but I was like, I know what it's like sitting in that chair, and when you're bored and you're not interested, like, so let's find something I have to teach marketing, I have to teach business management. Let's find companies that motivate you, that it's going to get you to want to do some research. You know, I don't want to push anything on you that you're not interested about. There's plenty of businesses out there. If it's a skateboard company, if it's whatever it might be, you know, like, let's look at companies that you like, not companies I like. So that was one of the things to get them motivated. And I go back to your book about Take It From the Ironwoman, and how motivation, if you're not motivated to run a marathon, all these people that I know, they go, oh, I could never run a marathon. I was like, no, you don't want to run a marathon. If you want to run a marathon, you will come to the classes and you'll learn. And people used to say, why do you take a class to learn how to run? Don't you just put your running shoes on and put one foot in front of the other? Like, no, there is training to build your stamina, your willpower, your ability to, you know, get stronger. And it's the same kind of thing, I think, in school. If you're not motivated and you don't want to try and learn from the bottom up and strengthen your abilities of, you know, planning, organizing, all of that stuff to make it a little easier. And I noticed kids from all walks of life. There were kids living in homeless shelters that I didn't know. And I used to say to them, please, I mean, I'm not a therapist or anything, but if you're having a problem at home, let me know so that I can put you in touch with the school counselor, and so you can talk to somebody, but don't sit there in silence. There's all kinds of means to help you. You know, so don't be shy to like come forward and let me know, hey, professor, I couldn't get this done because, you know, I have a little bit of a problem at home, or whatever it might be. But I was like, don't be afraid to reach out and ask for help. So that was, I tried to be, I don't want to be their friend, but I tried to make myself a little more approachable, that they weren't scared of me, that I wasn't that. And I remember when I was a kid and looking at the professor or the teacher and saying,
different times, right? Yeah.
Right? It's an old person of authority. Like, I can't relate. So I tried to make things relatable so that they would have fun and learn and enjoy their classes. So
I think that's important. And I can only say, when I see Dr. Z's group, I was probably the last one to give a presentation in the Bronx, the live, right? That was March 10, I think. And then everything was closed. You should have seen their eyes. They're like, oh. And I know there were two, and they said they studied psychology. And I said, I studied psychology too. And they were like, oh, what can we learn from you? And Dr. C tells them, connect with everybody on LinkedIn. I got an invite on LinkedIn. I see what they're doing. And I would like to talk a little bit about mentorship. I mean, I wish I had a mentor when I grew up, but I guess now is the time for us to give back. And Dr. Z, that's kind of like my question is, what is your ask? What do we need? I think, and you mentioned it, everybody has 2 hours out of the month to donate. And what I also want to stress is, if you are mentoring, you are learning too. It's not a mentorship, it's not a manager-employee relationship where you say, you do this wrong. It's not coaching where you say, what about this? What about that? Mentoring, you share your story. And I know from my mentee, she says, sometimes I'm afraid to ask a question. And I gave her opportunities to interview me. She has interviewed me last night. And I saw the difference from like 2 years ago. She was asking a question, how does your typical day look like? And I said, da, 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 da. Oh, that sounds interesting. What is the hardest for you? So she was able to ask a second question rather than just to go down on her list. Dr. C, what did you do to them? This is amazing. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It was like we trained them well.
I know.
And I think like you hit it right on the nail on the head. It's like mentoring is a two-way street. I always learn from my students, from everybody actually. And we all need mentors, whether you are a student. I mean, we're forever learners. We learn every day. So I need mentors as well. And then when I tell sometimes the students when they start, and I said, well, I'm going to have a meeting with my mentor. And then they look at me like, why do you have a mentor?
Right.
You know, I'm like, well, I'm learning new things. And I'm like, and so that starts already by opening their eyes a little bit. And then also when we're doing our training, it's like we leave our ego at the door. It's like, we don't need egos because they are in our way. And yes, I can be very, well, sometimes, as Caroline said, sometimes the students are afraid of you. And sometimes I have that with like parents as well, because when I go to these open houses, I'm oftentimes the only white female over there. And then they're like, well, why are you here? And I'm like, well, I know because I was discriminated at a certain time point in my life. I was harassed at a certain time point in my life. I've walked all these ways. And I'm like, and I understand what it is to work hard because I didn't get anything for free. And by telling that story, you can immediately see the eyes pop open. It's like, she's one of us. And then everything disappears. You're just a female that is working hard. And that is what they see. And then with the mentoring, the same thing. It's like, okay, when I mentor, I'm like, okay, we have like a little bit, of course, we have to set goals. That's an important part. And then I set a goal as well. And then it's like, and you give the service, but you get so much back in your response there. And our mentor-mentee programs, we do them over the summer because sometimes we have interns, so they meet. And what we do is EDsnaps just opens up the Zoom room for an hour. And if you and your mentor are able to make the Monday evening and you want to say hi to the other students and mentors, you can. But if it doesn't fit in the schedule, then they meet at a different hour. And then sometimes they are like, okay, what do you need? I said, I don't need anything. You and your mentor are deciding what to do because I cannot mentor all of them. I wish I could, but I don't have the time anymore. And I'm like, and that's a good thing because it means we're growing, but it's also like, you know, it's for me also growing because I grow in different leadership roles now. I've never had an NPO until 5 years ago. So I'm learning as well. So I have other people that already run an NPO and that I like, and I say, how do I do this? Or how should I do that? And then, and ask for help. And I think Caroline said it, or Miss Panda said it. It's like asking for help is so important. And it's not a sign of weakness. No, it's a sign of like, you realize where your limitations are. And I think our students know where their limitations are. And then they start asking for help, which is a good thing. And then they grow. And then I think they can ask you a second question in your interview. So I think that's kind of like the mentoring we're doing here in EDsnaps. And then everybody is at different levels. So I'm mentoring a 12-year-old middle schooler, female identifying, different as a 35-year-old first or second time job graduate. So it is a thing. And same as like you, when you're teaching adults, it's different because they come from their night shift and they fall asleep in your classroom. Or I had like one time I had like an exercise with like cookies because we're doing diameters and we're doing circumferences. And the guy ate all the cookies. And I'm like, we need it first for our experiment. So that's kind of like, you know, you have to like go and be inventive. And as you said, it's so easy when you do it in person because you go over there, you clap them on the thing, they high five you, you see the light coming on in their eyes and it's like doing the coin drops. But with Zoom, we learned how to read a little bit better the body language as well. Our students are trained for that one as well. So they know me better now. So they know when I'm nervous, when I have to ask a question, because I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to ask questions, but I have to because, you know, as a CEO, sometimes you have to show up and do these things. And when I'm there, I'm enjoying it, but I don't want to go there anyway. So that's kind of like my thing. And then my mentors help me, but my mentees help me as well, because they're like, oh, you can do it. It's like, yeah, right. You know, it's like, but still that little thing there that you need that push, and everybody needs a mentor. So I'm always looking for mentors for myself as well. So that's an open invitation to panel.
I have to say, I got a message from my mentee. Good luck. All will be fine for today. So isn't that nice? So you think like you're giving, but you also are receiving back. And I know she's with us and she's excited. And what I want to say, so whoever wants to sign up for to become a mentor, reach out to Dr. Z. She's always looking for people, whoever is in New York or around the world, if she can have visits, I think, to offices, right? So we have, if you move up the chat, we have all the information for EDsnaps. There's always cool programs happening. And what I appreciated as a mentor, actually, when you come in on that Monday and then you report back, and I had a mentee and it was just kind of like something happened there, and I pushed her a little bit, and I said, can I share something positive happened? And it was an extra boost for that person to be like, yeah, this is a proud moment of me. So I think it's about the mentee mentorship, but then also the support of the whole group.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm wondering, Dr. Panda, now we give you another title, Miss Panda. When we talk about mentorship, or I know you also teach adults to learn the Mandarin Chinese, is it also about mentoring, or when you say about cultures, or is it purely teaching? I'm wondering, is there a difference that we can learn from you?
Thank you. I just say I'm fascinated by this conversation from Caroline, from Dr. Z, from Susanne, because I think what we're seeing here is we're all learners. And we're also teachers. And how wonderful is that? Because for on the surface, people think, oh, you're just you're teaching Mandarin, you're training people, connecting people. But actually in the bottom, the root is I'm teaching kids how to learn, to have passion in learning. If you can learn the most difficult language people said, you can learn everything. So it is like what Dr. Z said, it's a mindset. And they will be surprised. I just have to talk about this online school I taught for a year during the pandemic. One time, the 7th and 8th grade kids, they were having a conversation. And at the end of their conversation, I said, you just spoke Mandarin, had a conversation for the past 20 minutes. 100% after 20 hours of training.
Wow.
And I didn't do it. I was just a facilitator. I said, well, you make up the story, things we talk about, prepare for 5 minutes, and we're going to have a conversation. You just see the kids bounce back and forth. I think learning is a fascinating thing. And the brain, Dr. Z talked about, I studied some psychology, education psychology when I was in college. Forever interested in psychology. I think psychology's way is to help people to connect. We're not talking about the manipulating. I'm talking about connecting. It's all about teaching and learning. Are we teaching to the students, or are we connecting with the students? We have to connect, have that bonding. Then they will say, okay, I'll listen to you. All the kids I do with kids also applies to adults.
Yeah.
So Caroline, you mentioned about fun. I think that's a fundamental. If it's fun, we want to stay. If it's not fun, sorry, I gotta go. And we see so clearly on Zoom. If it's not fun, they're just not looking at the camera. They're just not interested. You can see, and they were like, what should I do? So I do mentor teachers as well. I do conferences, and in the Washington, D.C. area, the Association for Foreign Language Teachers, I think teachers are so eager to learn. But I think, like Stephen Covey said, with people, slow is fast. And I really like that, because I feel sometimes we're so much in a hurry, want to teach somebody something. And then it becomes everyone becomes very anxious. So I think when I do mentoring, I want to tell them, let's take time to have that foundation built. And then you're going to see how you fly. Because my way of teaching, my philosophy is, I won't be your teacher forever, but I want you to remember what you have learned here, so you can take it far. And you can be on your own and find other teachers, be passionate about, I really love this, I want to keep learning. And that's what really mentoring is about. This is a journey we walk together, and this little distance, and later on you can take, and maybe you'll help others. So that's what I did when I volunteered to teach a whole grade level Mandarin Chinese when my kids were little, whole grade level. I have to convince the principal, I have to convince the teacher, say, please don't give me the after school program. I want to do this in curriculum program. It was not very easy. but I say, please just give me 20 minutes each class. He's look at me and say, what? I say, yes, please. I'm going to make it happen. You're going to see what is going to happen with all the kids. They have no Mandarin background. That was a wonderful experience because I created a community out of seriously unexpected. kids were running to me and sing a Chinese song for me when I went to pick up my kids. That was not a day for the class. So I think it's so wonderful when Dr. Z talked about mentoring. I think when you're mentoring others, you're learning so much. And that's connecting.
I wish we could sing you a song, right? I'm not so good, and my Mandarin is lacking a little bit. I'm wondering, we have many nice people in the audience. Are there any questions? Or I have a few final questions for the panelists. We have no hand going up. I'm just wondering, now we play a little bit. What is your superpower then? Maybe we start with Miss Panda. What is your superpower? Why did the kids come to you and sing? What is it that you have that we don't have?
Oh, did we freeze? I think we got frozen.
I think Miss Panda is frozen.
Miss Panda is frozen. Okay, then we go with Dr. Z.
Oh, see, I was
okay, then we go with Caroline. Caroline,
okay, go. It's no problem there.
So I know what Caroline's superpower is.
My super. I wish I had a lot of superpowers, but that's kind of like. So I think I want to say my power, and that's not a superpower because other people have it as well. I smile with my eyes, and I'm very honest, and that is, I think, my superpower. And you can tell me anything. I won't feel offended. I'll try to see the positive way of it and what is it helping? What is the silver lining here? So I think that's my superpower. But I wish I could fly as well, but that's kind of like...
We get there.
Because it's not really working, but it's okay. I'll take there.
One day, right? It's possible. Yeah. Caroline, what is your superpower?
I like to say I'm energized. So I use the philosophies of the training that we did for the marathon and coaching. When I'm in the classroom and I see like a student is starting to fall asleep, if we're watching a little video or something, I quickly try to change it. I never sit down in the classroom. That's one of the things I've said to the kids. I'm not a sitter. I stand, I move around, I talk with my hands. I'm on the go all the time. Maybe some kids find me like, oh, she's had too many cups of coffee. I don't know what she's doing. But I try to apply, even though they're older kids, if I see I'm losing them, I will break up the room and have them sit and everybody stand up, shake, get a little bit of your blood flowing again. Let's open up a window, get some fresh air, open the door. Let's move groups A, B. I go around and I switch them and get them to sit with other people. And then I give them a little project and they brainstorm for 5 minutes and then they make a presentation. But I try to keep it like moving. Because I know what it was like to sit there for 2 hours in a classroom and just looking at the blackboard or looking at, I was like, I can't stand this anymore. That you lose people, right? If you don't keep it energized. So I like to think that's what I try to keep.
I think that's correct. I mean, I know Caroline as a running coach, we both are running coaches, and people, it's like, Caroline is the best person to go and talk to, and she knows the best stretches. So she knows how to motivate, and she knows what people need. Same for Dr. Z. And Amanda, what is your superpower? I know what it is.
I think my superpower is my smile.
Yeah.
A lot. And just being here, I want to have class with Caroline. I want to have class with Dr. Z. I want to have class with Susanne. Caroline, when you were saying you move around, you never sit down. That's how I teach. And when Dr. Z said, I see my students' head, because I want them to work with the hands. And that's how I always have like Play-Dohs, pencils. They're right next to me because that's true. And then I think as we all smile, I think that's so inviting. I think that's how we start to invite people.
I think all of three of you is contagious, right? It's contagious what you do, and it's being that role model. And I need to read that chat before we leave. Thank you, Dale. Where do we find more teachers, learners, and mentors like this? I think you can hire us. We're expensive, but you can hire us.
You know what I was just thinking? I don't think we can like find students who want to do 3 consecutive sessions with us in a row, because they will be so tired afterwards. So we have to, like, once a week, one of us can show up, and not 3 times a day, because that's not going to work.
I know. So he says, I have not seen such commitment and energy in most male dominant sessions similar to this. How do we replicate this level of commitment across, and now I can go, across all dimensions of people? I think this is the global lens, women executive leadership. We just have demonstrated what 4 CEOs can do in 45 minutes. And I know we all can do more. Dale, maybe you bring us all together. You have our contacts, we can do more. We all are happy to do more. And this morning we also heard about the equal pay. It's about education, it's about bringing the people together, but it's the education piece and the mentorship, and we're all here. But thank you, Miss Panda, Dr. C, Caroline, for being with us. And I think this is a start of a discussion. This is not the end of just today, but thank you so much. And we'll continue actually in 2 hours, whatever is at your time zone. In 2 hours, we'll continue with a coaching aspect panel with other 3 fantastic ladies. So thank you so much, everybody. Wish you well and happy International Women's Day.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Great
Thank
to have
you.
everyone. Yeah,
Bye.
great.